Did you ever wonder? I do. Did you ever wonder why the sun always rises, but the stars never fall? Why dry land is never satisfied by water? And why fire never says enough?
Today on Bible Wonders, I'm going to wonder about if it might not, in fact, be more blessed to receive than it is to give. And the idea here is that by receiving, you obviously allow the giver the joy of giving. So, as would be the case when we receive our salvation. I'll tell a story that kind of illustrates this. When I was crushed between the two Jeeps and had all the surgeries on my leg, I was in a wheelchair for a period of time. And, you know, I was kind of a baby Christian at the time, and I belonged to a Sunday school class at Calvary Baptist Church, and they got together and decided, because my wife was struggling to get me in a wheelchair, I had to slide down the stairs of my house every day, kind of on my butt, in order to get out in the wheelchair to get in the car to go to the doctor or whatever. So they came out to my house to build a wheelchair ramp. And they paid for all the wood, and because my deck was up so high and the way it was going out, I mean, this wheelchair ramp was, you know, probably 150 feet long. It was a long wheelchair ramp. And so as all these people are out at my house, you know, they're working on and doing this all for free and all. My Sunday school teacher's name was Mike Ham, and I said, Mike, I just don't understand. I've never done anything like this for anybody. I mean, what did I do to deserve this? I'm just so grateful that you guys would come do this. And he said, Robbie, we would do it a lot more, but people rob us of the blessing because they won't let us do anything for them. And I've never forgotten that little conversation there, and it so illustrates something that the relationship between two Jewish letters, or Hebrew letters, the Dalet and the Gimel. So the third letter of the Hebrew alphabet is the Gimel, and it looks sort of like a foot. And the reason they say it's a foot is because it's the rich man that is running to give alms to the poor man. But the interesting thing is that the Dalet, which is the fourth letter of the Hebrew alphabet, so you see that you're connecting this idea of the Gimel and the Dalet. The fourth letter, the Dalet, it literally does mean a poor person. And I don't know if you ever put this together. It's absolutely beautiful when you think about it, that David, King David's name is Dalet, right? That D sound, duh. And then a Vav, meaning, as we always talk about, sort of a hook to heaven, which King David clearly was. It's absolutely a beautiful name. And it ends in a second Dalet, right? And so the idea of blessed are the poor in spirit, right? For theirs is the kingdom of heaven. I mean, it's like David's name, because he was poor, and so you can be poor in three different ways. You probably can be poor in more ways than this, but this is what I think Jesus was getting at when he said, blessed are the poor in spirit. Because you can be poor physically, like you don't have any money, but you can also be poor emotionally. I'm sure you've seen people that were poor emotionally. And then you can be poor spiritually. And so the concept of tithing really works really phenomenally well within all three of these. And the way that this association between the Gimel and the Dalet works from a Hebrew standpoint, they explain it beautifully. And what they say is that when the Gimel is chasing after the Dalet to give him his 10%, the alms, that the Dalet is giving the Gimel a huge favor by receiving that 10%, because now the Gimel is going to be blessed 10 times more, so that it can give even more. You've probably heard that you can't outgive God. Well, one of the ways that you can give is when you receive, you're allowing the person that gave you a blessing of God of 10 times more than they gave you. Of course, all these things can be obviously made for bad, but that's not what I'm talking about. That what my Sunday school teacher was telling me that day is I would receive this. It gave them a blessing, and again, 10 times more blessing than that. And so it even works And I've seen it work with jokes, okay? So another interesting little lesson that I've never forgotten is when I started doing devotions at the nursing home in Moxville about 22 or 3 years ago, somebody told me that if you'll give them something on a piece of paper, then, it will mean the world to them. So my mother would always send me these emails with these jokes that made me laugh. You might guess my mother has a similar sense of humor to my own. And so I would take these jokes that my mother would send me and other people would send me, and I would write them, essentially type them out and hand these jokes out that I taught. If you wonder what happened in Kingdom Pursuits and my riddles, it all is based out of this. So when I started to give out those sheets of paper with those jokes on it, right, I began to receive thousands of jokes from people in my email. I don't know how. It was like the joy that God allowed me to give to these people through these jokes. He now poured 10 times more jokes into my world. I've never forgotten it. And I know that the same thing works, that when God teaches you something like what I'm explaining right now, if you'll give it away, he's going to give you 10 times more. Right? And thus is the idea of blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom. But because if you will realize that you need it desperately, then you give somebody or something an opportunity to give you something of God, and you get it 10 times back. So today, again, I wonder if you will wonder with me if it isn't in fact better to receive. I know it blesses God's heart when you receive his son, okay? I wonder if it isn't in fact better to receive than it is to give.
Did you ever wonder?